Ow!
Greetings YouTube, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. Alright, I made this video earlier today, but as soon as I was finished, the computer told me that the sound recording software just suddenly, arbitrarily stopped working. So I was too upset to try to do this again immediately after, because the last time I did this, the recording was probably over 20 minutes long, so I'm doing it again. This is in response to another person on Facebook, and please excuse the background noise. This conversation's still going on hours later now between this person and my cousin. Anyway, it all began. I think it was yesterday when I posted this, 23 hours ago. Yep. It was just a political cartoon. Now, I will admit, I swatted the hornet's nest here because and the thing is this, I never post anything on Facebook unless I'm willing to defend it. If it's something I believe in and I post it, it's something that I will be willing to defend. Now, what it is, it shows a four-panel strip. It says there are some things we'd never accept, and it shows a woman throwing a baby out of a. It looked like a newborn baby out of her house, and it says it's my house. And then they're showing a woman throwing a newborn baby out of her car, saying it's my car. And then they show this boat out in the middle of the ocean, and the woman throwing a newborn baby out the boat, saying it's my boat. And then it says, and yet, and then they show a pregnant woman walking into an abortion clinic, says it's my body. So, yeah, you can get the rationale behind this. And I ran into several detractors, to put it lightly, but one of them stood out among the rest. Now, my general argument in a discussion like this is is what is growing in the mother's body a human? Is it a person? Now, admittedly, the argument I made to her was not quite as robust as I possibly could have made it, and I will freely admit that she brought up some things that were interesting that helped me to actually better frame this argument. However, at some point, things kind of got a little indignant, shall we say, when she posts this particular post. Now, I'm going to read this whole post before I comment on anything. The last time I did this video, I was doing it piecemeal. I really think I just better read the whole thing. She says, "No, you're just hopelessly out of your depth. The reason I asked you where other cells come from is because each and every cell in your body is derived from the zygote. That's why they're genetically identical. That is why they are not categorically different as far as genetic content is concerned. They are genetically the same, which is why DNA alone is a bad definition for human." And I know y'all can't hear this, but I mean, I've got people popping in on Facebook while I'm doing this whole conversation going on in the background, and my neighbor's cats are tearing through her apartment. I can hear that through the walls. So it's unusually noisy when I'm trying to make a video right now. Anyway, moving on. You consider a zygote a human offspring, and yet every cell is derived from it. At what stage do other zygote-derived cells lose their human offspring status? Do they become collectively human offspring? See, you added a criterion, you're not even aware of it. Actually, you've added a couple. Your real definition seems to be that a human is defined as a zygote and all derived cells collectively. So, would it be fair to say that human DNA is is insufficient for defining human life? I still don't understand if she was saying necessary or insufficient. So would it be fair to say that DNA is, I think she meant insufficient, for defining human life? Either way, you're still, oh no, I think she did mean necessary. So would it be fair to say that DNA is necessary for defining human life? Either way, you're still running into trouble with the implications of that logic. Say someone has an amputation where those derived cells are split into two groups. Which one of the cell groups is human? Now the answer is obvious, but why is it obvious? I can bring up the cancer example again as well. So you have a tumor that is also by definition derived from the zygote and is by definition part of a larger body. of derived cells? Why is it not also considered intrinsically part of the human offspring and therefore worthy of privileged status? Again, all these questions probably seem to be really obvious to the point of seeming stupid. But if that's the case, then you should be able to easily explain yourself. I genuinely don't think you thought this through, and it's a human offspring is the equivalent of saying it just is. I'm more than happy to get into my definitions of human life after, but I'm not going to use it as a get out of jail free card when you're having a hard time justifying yourself. I like that smugness. Now, first of all, as I said before to you, ma'am, you assume a lot to think that I'm just out of my depth. Okay, the whole deal about our cells coming from an original zygote, that's a big duh thing. However, now this I will admit, I shouldn't have said categorical. And for those who are watching this, I mentioned earlier on that I was making a categorical difference. But she did bring up some good points about how calling it a categorical difference isn't really good. Rather, this is more of an intrinsic difference. A zygote is a special kind of cell. Scientifically, we know this. A zygote is different from any cell that would be in the mother's body in that it doesn't just have her DNA, but it has the DNA of another that is part of it. And this DNA makes up the blueprint for that entire human. At that particular point of development, that's all that person is that one cell. It's different from any of the other cells in her body because that cell is about to become a fully developed, it's about to develop into a full human body, into a full human form. Now, here's the deal. Bypassing all this other stuff before I go into it, is this a person? You see, I was looking back over some things that I had read in the past. See if I can bring that up right quick. This comes from Stand to Reason, which is an apologetics ministry, and they had written in its founder Greg Kokel had talked about the issue of abortion on multiple occasions. There's actually something I've been meaning to get. There was a writing by them called "Making Abortion Unthinkable." Now, I was looking back through their archives of their newsletter called Solid Ground, which talks about various subjects that are very important to Christians and for other reasons. And yes, most in America, at least the majority of pro-life people tend to be Christian. But being pro-life does not necessarily have to be connected with my religion. I have my cousin arguing in this whole deal, and well, he's not exactly a believer. Now, he says, imagine that your child walks up with your back is turned and asks, Daddy, can I kill this? What is the first thing you must find out before you can answer him? You can never answer the question, can I kill this, unless you've answered a prior question. What is it? Abortion involves killing and discarding something that's alive. And to the person I've been talking to, that ranges from either the blastocyst all the way up to a fully developed human form. Now, whether it's right or not to take the life of any living thing depends entirely upon what kind of being it is. The answer one gives is pivotal, the deciding element that trumps all other considerations. Let me put the issue plainly. If the unborn is not a human being, no justification for abortion is necessary. However, if the unborn is a human being, no justification for abortion is adequate. Some say the unborn is not a human being. They contend that it's just a non-viable tissue mass, merely a part of the woman's body. Others say it's only potential human, or a human that is not yet a person. If any of these options turns out to be true, then it's hard to imagine how any additional considerations could make a difference. No further defense would be necessary. Have the abortion. On the other hand, maybe the unborn child is a bona fide human being, deserving of the same care and protection you and I enjoy. If that's the case, then abortion takes the life of an innocent child, simply because he or she is in the way and can't defend his or herself. This is not a reason to kill another human being. Here's the thing. You go on and on and on about a blastocyst, a fertilized zygote. So clearly, you must not think that that zygote is human. So I asked, as I asked you earlier in our discussion, at what point is it human? Go back in time to when you were 3, to when you were 2, to when you were 1. Were you still you? Go back further in time before you were even born, before you, when you were still developing inside your mother. Were you still you? At what point does that question get answered with no? You mentioned something about your reasons for defining when it becomes human or becomes a person or neurological. And yet, you never explained to me. And then you have the audacity to say that I don't explain my point. Explain yourself in that. Because I am actually kind of curious about that. Now, if you're talking about the baby having developed a neurological system, well, you have babies that are born anencephalic. Yes, they can't survive once they're born. They die soon afterwards. They have to be on a machine, and the baby will never think for itself, never walk around. But it's still a human being. Unfortunately, a human being without a brain. We still, um, if they decide to let the child die, then they still treat it as you would any dead body with the same reverence, if you go for that kind of thing. Because to everyone else, that was still a human being that was born but just never had a chance. So, at what point does it become a human being? You seem to be so hinged on trying to dismiss my point of view because it's just a cell. But like I said, at what point is it a human? What point is it a person? And the question is, why? What makes it a person different from that other point? And I sincerely, and as you tried to tell me, go back here. Let me see. Where did it go? Hmm. Oh, where you where you say, are you still clinging to the position that DNA is sufficient in and of itself to define a human being, in and of itself to define a human being slash human life? Please tell me what moved part that past that part at least. And for goodness sakes, don't say just human offspring. It's a trump card. No, it's not a trump card. I say human offspring because is it not the result of a pairing between a man and a woman? Then it is their offspring. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Sorry if that rakes on your ears. But what I'm trying to say here, and I hope I didn't lose my train of thought, is that you're going on and on and on about about the zygote and the blastocyst and everything like that. Well, I'm sincerely hope you're prepared to tell me where you believe at what point does it become human? What point does it become a person? And I sincerely hope you're not going to keep going back to talking about cells again. Because when you think about it, when you go back in time, even prenatal development, all that body is becoming is as time runs back is less and less complex until it is that one fertilized cell. And well, last time I checked, there are organisms that exist that are composed of only one cell. This is merely different. It is a cell that is in the process of becoming a fully developed human body. So, at what point of this development is it not a human? Or does it become a human? Excuse me. I mean, those examples you were giving, I know you were trying to use hyperbole, but but this is not what I'm talking about. What is the difference between a zygote and a human cell or even a human cancer cell? Easy. That zygote is the human. The cells that you pluck off our skin or get off from our bone or our muscle tissue or whatnot are a part of a human. And that kind of reminds me of a kind of funny joke by one of my favorite comedians, Mitch Hedberg. He was talking about, he said, why do they call it corn on the cob, but when you sell it in cans at the grocery store, they call it corn? It's kind of mislabeling it. They should call the corn in the cans corn off the cob, and the corn that's on the cob you should call corn. That's like cutting my arm off and calling the arm Mitch, and then reattaching it to me and calling me Mitch altogether. All kidding aside, that skin cell is not a human. It is a part of a human. But that blastocyst is the human because we know what that blastocyst develops into. And it is merely at a stage in its development where it is composed of only one cell. So I've done my homework, ma'am. Now I sincerely hope you have something better to say than what you said instead of keep constantly going back to cells because you seem to speak of them as if they're not human. Well, if you are so confident about this, then I await your response. Show me where human life begins in your eyes. And I sincerely hope your answers don't just equivocate to arbitrariness. Because here's the thing. We know the blastocyst, the zygote, excuse me, is human because we have its DNA. We know it's human because it may be one cell or just a small mass of cells, but that is the body at that particular point of development. Whereas individual cells on a human body are part of the human. Though they have human DNA, I'm not saying that those cells are human because yes, there's a little more to it than that, I will admit. But we know that that is a part of a human. That zygote or even the blastocyst is the human. I think you really were being obtuse. But I could be wrong. Prove me wrong. Hope everyone else has enjoyed listening to this little rant of mine. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, especially in this case, people, please keep it civil. Comment, rate, subscribe. Thank you everyone for listening, and I await this particular person's response. And so until next time, everyone, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. And as always, stay lucky and stay blessed. Take care.